In this video, we're going to practice using Excel's VLOOKUP function. This is a handy function that automates lookups. For example, here we have a table of driver incidents. So the driver ID, the date, and the incident type. We also have another table over here that keeps track of driver information. We have the driver ID, the year they were hired, and the driver's name. What if we want to add driver name to the incidents data? So I'm going to go ahead and add a column here. And in this column, I'm going to put driver name. Now, if you were doing this manually, for the first driver name, you'd see that the driver ID was 5. You'd go over here to the driver table, find 5, and then go to the driver name column. It says Vera, so we'd type Vera in this cell. That's exactly what the VLOOKUP function does, except for it does it automatically. So it's equal VLOOKUP, and then in the parentheses you need to put the value that you're looking up. So what is it we're looking up? We're looking up the driver ID, and then you put a comma. The next input is where you're looking up that value. And if you're going to be copying this formula anywhere else, you want to make sure to use an absolute reference. So I'm going to select the table where I'm looking up the value, and then hit F4, the function for key, to make it an absolute reference. I put another comma. The next input is the column index number. This is where you tell the function, if you find the lookup value in the table, what value do we want to bring back? Okay, so when you have a lookup table like this, the key is always going to be on the left-hand side. So what you're looking up, this driver ID, the function will try to find it on the left-hand side. If it does, it will bring back the data in whichever column you specify here. So if you just wanted to see the driver ID, that would be column 1, hire year would be column 2, driver name would be column 3. So I'm going to put a 3 in my function. And then the last part is whether you want an exact match or an approximate match. I only want to get a name back here if I find an exact match for that driver ID. So I type false. False is the option you use with the VLOOKUP whenever you want to find an exact match only. Hit enter and see how the name Vera shows up there. So there's the function again, equals VLOOKUP, and then in parentheses, what you're looking up, in this case the driver ID, where you're looking it up, and that's the reference to the table. It's always a good idea if you're going to be copying this formula somewhere to make that an absolute reference. Then what column you're bringing back, column 3, because that's the column with the name, and then false tells the VLOOKUP that you only want to bring back exact matches. So now all I have to do to fill in all the rest of the driver names is copy that formula down, and I'm done. Anytime you use a function like this, it's good to take a look and make sure it's working correctly. 3 bill, 1 how. Okay, so that's the first usage of VLOOKUP, when you need to find an exact match. VLOOKUP is also useful if you have ranges of data that mean different things. So let's go to the second tab here and take a look at that. Here we're doing bonus calculations for salespeople. This first table to the left is where I'm calculating the bonus. So I have the salesperson ID and their total sales, and I want to calculate the bonus. The bonus is calculated as a percentage of total sales according to this table over here. So from 0 to $10,000 of total sales, their bonus is 5%. From $10,001 to $50,000, it's 7.5%, and so on. This kind of a situation is where a VLOOKUP with the approximate match is very useful. So if you write a VLOOKUP function and use the true option at the end, what VLOOKUP will do is find the closest match to the lookup value in this table that's less than or equal to the lookup value. Again, it'll find the closest match that's less than or equal to the lookup value. Now, this is just my the information I need to make the table. This won't work for the actual table, because if you use a lookup table, it has to have just one number in the left-hand column, and here we have text that has a couple numbers in it. So here, let me make my lookup table over here. Where do we start? Well, if you want to match the range 0 to 10,000, I have to start with 0. Because remember, the VLOOKUP will match the closest value less than or equal to the lookup value. And then I need 10,001, 0.01. And I need 50,000, 0.01. And then I need 100,000, 0.01. Let me format those, and then I'll explain why. And here's the percentages. Just paste them down from up there. So this is going to be my lookup table. Why do we use 0, 10,000.01, 50,000.01, and so on? Well, to get the bonus of 5%, that's for salespeople who sell between 0 and 10,000, up to and including $10,000. So for any number in this range, say 2,105 is in that range, the VLOOKUP formula is going to say, okay, find 2,105 in this table. What's the closest number in here less than or equal to 2,105? It's 0. And that will be true for every number all the way up to 10,000. Let's say the salesperson sold exactly $10,000 worth. The VLOOKUP will go over here to the table and say, okay, $10,000, what's the closest number less than or equal to $10,000? It's 0. So the bonus will be 5%. As soon as the salesperson sells $10,000.01, then when the VLOOKUP comes over here and says, what's the closest number less than or equal to? It's going to find the 10,000.01 and match with the 7.5%. So let's see how this works. So for the bonus, I need to find the percentage in the table and then multiply it by total sales. So I'm going to find the percentage first, just so we can verify that that part works. Equals VLOOKUP. What am I looking up? I'm going to look up the total sales, comma. We're going to look it up where? In this table right here. I'm going to be sure to add the dollar signs to make it an absolute reference to that range. And put another comma. If I get a match on the left-hand side, what column do I want to bring back? I want the bonus percentage, and that's in the second column, so I put it 2. And then another comma, and for the last parameter, I enter true, T-R-U-E. True tells the VLOOKUP to use the approximate match logic, where it matches the closest number less than or equal to the lookup value. Hit enter. And remember, we're not done with this formula yet. We're just trying to test it and see if it's finding the right bonus percentage. Copy it down. Here's anything between anything less than $10,000.01 should be 5%. So that looks right. That looks right. Right. Anything between $10,000.01 and $50,000 should be 7.5%. So that's that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. So that looks to be working right. Anything from $50,000.01 up to $100,000 should be 10%. So that looks right. That looks right. And anything over $100,000.01 should be 15%. That looks right. Now to calculate the bonus, we have to multiply that times the total sales. And change it back into a currency value. Copy it down. And there I have my bonuses. And that's how you can use the VLOOKUP function.